Welcome to our second WOMXNAIRE interview. I am so thrilled to introduce to you Joanna Sobran. She is a dear friend of mine. She's become one of the most impactful women in my life over the past 5 years. She's a mentor. She's a mother of three. She owns a $6 million tech company that she built from the ground up. She is an immigrant from Poland. She's got an amazing story. I'm really excited for her to share all of this with you and her advice to other female entrepreneurs who want to scale their business to 7 figures. Joanna, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Gosh, I never thought we would be here. I remember still when we met at Jim Rosas's networking event.
I know. Oh, such a good memory. I think your story is so unique in how you, not just how you built your business, but like where you started, where you grew up, coming to the US, not knowing English and all of those experiences that made you who you are today.
I was born in Poland. I came here when I was 11 years old, and I didn't speak English, but at a young age, you want to fit in with kids. So you'll do anything to fit in. And learning English was obviously a very important component of that. When I got here, my parents worked really hard. My mom was cleaning houses. My dad was in construction. And we didn't have a lot of things. My friends were getting Cavaricci clothes, and my parents were shopping at Kmart for me. And so I always said that I really wanted to make a better life for myself and my family and use this opportunity that my parents gave me in a way that could be significant. I ended up working for two really successful women at the age of 19. And I just loved seeing them walk into the door every day and with beautiful clothes and shoes and building a company that had a great culture. And I said to myself, that's who I want to be one day. And I never forgot that. I ended up leaving that job when the company was sold. I went to work for a tech company. The culture was very different. It was run by males. And I always kept looking back and saying, I want to be a part of something great. I want this type of culture. I want to create job opportunities. I had so many goals and dreams for working with these two phenomenal women and others that worked at that company. I never forgot that. And so at 29, I ended up leaving the tech company where I went to work, and I was making a lot of money, Megan. At 28, coming to this country, my parents, I think, made like $40,000 put together. I was making $150,000 a year in sales. But I gave birth to my daughter, Hannah, who and I said to myself, I kept thinking of that dream and that company and me wanting to do something greater than anyone has in my family. I resigned from my job and I started MXO. And I really focused on sales, like just trying to survive. And I made $411,000 my first year of business. And so I knew at that time that I can keep going. I had enough revenue to keep paying my bills and growing. I've never looked back.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked a little bit about this, right? Yesterday, actually, how I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and I had this experience myself. I invested so much money into branding and a website before I had any sales, before I actually went out there to sell anything. I thought I had to have the perfect, brand. And for you, I remember you telling me you just started picking up the phone and calling people. I don't even think you had a website at that point.
I had this dream and it was in my head, and I knew who's my ideal customer. Like I knew who I wanted to target. I also knew what it is that I wanted to do, right? I wanted to have an IT consulting company. I didn't quite know exactly what that was going to be like. I just knew that I was going to sell IT services because that was my background after the healthcare company that I left. And so I sort of started merge IT and healthcare in the very beginning. And I had experience being an IT recruiter. And so in the first year, I no longer do IT staffing, but in the first year, I knew that that could help me generate revenue. And so I did all kinds of things to get myself up and running so I can hire staff, and then I can figure out what it is that I really want to do. And keep in mind, I've never run a business before. So it's hard to create a perfect vision of something you've never done. There was some trial and error that I had to go through. But pretty much within my first year, after I made enough money that I could sustain myself, I did start to focus more on the types of services I wanted to offer. I eliminated staffing. It wasn't something that I was passionate about, even though it was generating revenue. There were other things I wanted to do. Important thing was, back to your point, is sales. I started picking up the phone. I called everyone I knew. I started doing some marketing campaigns, even though I really didn't know exactly how to do them. I started just mailing letters to companies that were in the area that I thought could use IT services. I started to work on a website because I didn't have one when I started. So I started to have one. Then I realized, oh, it's not just a brochure. I actually need this to generate leads for me. And so I really focused on sales and marketing. And then I ended up hiring people who were technical. And so
Mhm.
what was important for me from the experience I had in recruiting is that you have to hire good people. And so the first few gentlemen that I hired to work for my company were very talented technically. And so they allowed me to grow the business by getting referrals from my existing customer, expanding the relationships with my existing clients. So it was a lot of different things going on at the same time, but I stayed true to making sure that we generate enough revenue to sustain ourselves.
Profit first. I just read that book, changes the way you think about business, where I think, when I started my company, I was like, well, you have to spend money to make money. But when I met you, you were like, no, you need to make money.
We were taught not to have credit cards, right? We were taught
Mm-hmm.
to only buy things with the money that we have, not money we can pay back later. And I sort of took that into my business. I didn't overspend. I learned a long time ago to also have a savings account for a rainy day. When COVID hit, a lot of businesses were very worried because they didn't have a savings account. I knew I could have a year that I could sustain my company without any additional revenue. And that's because that's important to me. The business is important to me. My team's important to me. I wouldn't want to jeopardize them and their families.
Share that you had these women that you worked for, that you now had someone to look up to. You had a vision of what you could create yourself. And I really feel like you've done that for me. I didn't think about that until you just said it. I didn't really have someone that I'm close to that I could see myself being as. Since I've met you, I mean, my business has changed so much. Things are really turning around. I had my first profitable quarter last year, and a lot of that was working on the things that I've learned from you, watching you grow your business, listening to your advice, and focusing on what is going to generate revenue. How can I scale the business? And how can I also make the impact with what I am offering? So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind. It's always like pay it forward. And trust me, Megan, you've done a lot for me as well. And I think the key here is to surround yourself with amazing women and men, but for me, seeing other women was really important because I felt like I've always seen men being successful, but the women in my life weren't in those same situations. And so seeing other women was a pivotal point in my life because I could picture myself in that role. I could picture myself in their shoes. And I thought I started spending time with them, just like you and I spend time together. Any woman, if you put your mind to it, and if this is your dream to own your own business, you can do it, right? It's a lot of it is believing in yourself. It's treating people well. It's working hard. Don't underestimate the simplicity of just working hard. I know how many hours you put into your business,
Mm-hmm.
and just keep going.
Surrounding yourself with the right people too. I mean,
Oh,
it's a huge part of it. And I've noticed, since I built my personal advisory board and I really started surrounding myself with other successful entrepreneurs, it changes the way I think about things. It changes the way I think about my business and the actions that I take. And that's really honestly, when I think about why I'm doing these Womenaire interviews, that's why, because I want other women to have those successful female entrepreneurs to look up to say, that could be me one day. And so thank you for being here.
someone asked me what's one thing that I would really recommend for women, people in general starting out in a business, and that is to be part of some type of group. That's helped me from the very beginning. I've always gotten support. And so I love what you're doing and the groups that you're creating, and accountability groups and dinner groups and, and just friendship groups. I love that you have a variety of offerings for other women to support one another and uplift each other, right? Like that's so important. Because I think when we're in like grammar school, high school, girls can get a little competitive, but when you get older, I think we're all relying on one another and we want to help each other. And I'll tell you, I looked at some statistics of my company, and over 60% of my clients are women led or women owned companies, and I do that on purpose. That's
That's
not
so
by,
cool.
that's not an accident. And I think, for the women who are starting out, who want to grow their business, joining something like what you're offering is so powerful for them. I can't tell you the power of that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, it's been a game changer for me as well in my own business, surrounding myself with these women because I'm a part of my community. So when you think about your journey as an entrepreneur, what are some of the biggest challenges, or is there like one big challenge that you really feel was something that other women have to deal with as well? And how did you get through that?
I think it's confidence. In the beginning, I didn't have the confidence, and I thought I was the only one with these problems. I was almost like living a secret life a little bit, and I didn't want to share some of the challenges I was having, because I thought, oh my God, it must be me, because these other entrepreneurs, these business owners, they seem so strong on these kind of interviews. They only tell you the positives, right?
Yep.
And so I was hiding in some ways. And then I realized over time, by being in accountability groups, by working with other entrepreneurs, even my competitors, that everyone has these problems. And it's not about what issues you have, it's about how you get through them, right? It's how you resolve problems you might have with your staff. It's financial issues that you may have within your organizations. It could be, anything that's going on within your company. There's always going to be problems when you're growing a business and you own a business. It's inevitable. It's just how you handle them. That's the key. And I learned not to focus about being embarrassed or scared that I have challenges, but it's to focus on how to fix those things and be a leader for my team. Because I also had this, weird thought in my head that as a woman, or as a young woman, because, keep in mind, I started my business, I think I was 29, maybe 30. And I was young, and I thought, well, who's going to take orders from me? Right. Because I was hiring people
Yeah.
who were older than me. And it doesn't matter. People don't care about that. They want a strong leader, someone that supports them, someone that has their back. And that is financially, that they get great clients for them, create a nice environment. It's all those things. That's what people are looking for. They don't care if you're a woman, if you're 29 years old, none of that matters,
We've
right?
talked a little bit about this. One of the things that I've had to deal with, and I know that other women entrepreneurs deal with quite a bit, whether they realize it or not, is those limiting beliefs around money. And the way I see it show up for women is they give their time away for free. They don't charge enough. There's a lot of different ways that that shows up for women, especially.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, were there any, when you think back about, growing your business and getting to 6 million in revenue, were there beliefs that you had to work through in order to really bring that revenue in and continue scaling the business?
Sure, I've had some limiting beliefs. I think some of it is maybe on my personal side that I didn't deserve. I remember when I was buying my first home, I went to look at a house that was more money that I had intended to spend. And a man friend of mine said to me, just buy it. You can afford it. I know, because I do your finances. And I thought, oh my God, I don't deserve this kind of home. The house where we had our women parties that you and I did, right?
Oh yeah.
And I had this limited belief that I don't deserve that. In terms of my business, I didn't necessarily have issues there as much, because I felt like I was doing that for other people. So for my staff, right? So there are a few things. One, I never wanted anyone to devalue my services because I worked hard. I also wanted to make sure that I could afford to hire the best skill set for my clients to do the job. And if I'm not getting paid, I can't pay good people, right? And experienced people cost a lot of money. That's the most expensive asset in a business. You know, I've tried to implement a lot of tools and efficiencies, which is the least expensive thing I can do, but people are still my highest cost of expenses for my company. And so I always want to have great customer service. I want to provide valuable services to my clients. I have to afford it. It wasn't necessarily about me. I removed myself. This is about the bigger picture for the greater good of my company. So maybe it's like a psychological shift that I do.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yes, I can see that. I love that you frame it around that. What it's not so much about the money isn't for you, it's for your staff so that you can serve your clients at a higher level. But when it comes to showing yourself with your money, it's a little bit of a
Yeah.
uncomfortable situation. So yeah, okay.
And then
Um,
I'm working on all of that, right? And
oh
but
yeah.
I've been blessed enough in the business that I've been able to shift that mindset to continue to grow and provide the opportunities for my team as well. Give them the right training they need, create a nice culture, nice work environment, have a nice place to work. I mean, all that takes financial resources, so it's really important.
I've learned so much about scaling a business from you and processes and all the different things that are required to scale a business. What what was it that you did in your business, or what was that moment where you really created that foundation for your business to grow so that you can share with other women what it takes to get to seven figures?
For me specifically, Megan, you know, in the beginning, I mentioned that I started out doing all kinds of different services. And then at one point, I realized that I didn't have a reoccurring model for generating revenue. I was doing a lot of project based work. And so I went and looked in the market to see where are some opportunities. And actually, the same author, Mike Mihalovic, wrote this book called The Pumpkin Plan. I read that
Yeah.
book and I realized that in order to grow colossal pumpkins, which are bigger clients, you have to have a focus and you have to have some kind of business model. So I transitioned from IT break and fix services. You know, people called me when their computer was broken or server
Uh-huh.
was out, dispatch them. And then people would complain because they feel like they had to call us again. The problem didn't get fixed. And I wanted to have better customer service, more revenue. I wanted to have consistent revenue. So I switched my business model from break and fix to IT managed services. And that allowed me to have long-term agreements with my clients, be proactive, bill them on a monthly reoccurring basis versus just break and fix whenever they had a problem. And you know, that was also the time that I realized that I'm going to be successful and I'm going to keep thriving, because I ended up at that point terminating 13 of my clients who weren't a good fit. Every other client, I turned them over, changed them over to a 2 to 3 year contract. And at that point, when majority of my customers signed a 2 to 3 year contract with me, including a really large client, I knew there was value that I was providing. And I knew that, again, I would be financially stable. I adopted a new technology tool that allowed me to manage our company's networks and their security and their backup and disaster recovery. I was able to bill on a monthly basis. I was able to get long-term contracts. And that's sort of what propelled us to move forward. And then I knew exactly who my target client was, what I was selling, and it made me feel good about the services that I was providing. I think you have to look at ways that you can scale your business, not just with a service that you're providing, but like a consistent type of service, right? And really knowing what you're selling and who's buying.
It can't be an exchange of time for money all the time. You have to, if you want to scale the business, you have to find a way where you can grow it without you actually having to be there to do the work.
Reoccurring revenue, you know, that's
Yeah.
I think that's very helpful. When I started, that really wasn't so popular. It wasn't a thing. And when I learned about it, I thought to myself, wow, why didn't I do this, 3 years ago? My advice to people is when you're frustrated in your business, something's not working, change it. Find something else, right? Don't keep doing the same thing over and over. And I think that's where maybe I've done well over the years is I'm always looking to change things, especially when they're not working, because that usually means you're growing or you've outgrown that, or people have outgrown you. So you got to keep moving.
You just talked to me the other night about you were doing some research. You know, you have a service that you're providing and you want to grow it now. What does it take to do that to the next level?
Okay, so now at this point again where I feel like we've really figured out what we're doing well and how we're doing it for our IT managed services side of the house. But we've had application development as well as the other kind of arm of our company. And that's something that I've never done a lot of sales and marketing around. I've had some consistent customers there that have, that we've added value for them and they've been, good to work with for us. But we decided as I brought in a new leader that we're going to grow our application development. So we started to look at the market, what's the need out there. So we added UX UI design, right? Where instead of, because I was having an issue on the sales side, someone would come to me and say they need a custom application. I would say, well, it's going to cost you $150,000. But you're like, well, what's going to cost me $150,000? How do I know even that you're going to deliver this? So we said, well, how do we solve that problem, right? So we added the UX UI design, meaning now every client that comes to us that has a need for some kind of custom software solution, we first start with building them a prototype, right, of what that's going to look like. And that's a low kind of cost engagement for them to do with us, where we take their vision, their dream, and actually put it down and make it a reality, right? We build them a high fidelity prototype so they can see exactly what that platform would look like. Then if they like that and approve that, we can proceed with building that and creating a database behind that. We also realized that some of our clients had a need for mobile application. So we added that skill set to our portfolio as well. And we've changed some things around. We're constantly sort of pivoting because we have to stay, competitive in the market. And we've also looked at verticals where we've had success in building some platforms. So we work with nonprofits and healthcare, right? And we're going marketing specifically to those types of clients and solving a specific problem. One in particular is around auditing. And so it's those types of things. It's honing in on what you're good at. What does the market need? How do you acquire a client? You have to make it easy for people to do business with you. You can't make it hard because you're not going to grow, right? It's got to be an easy kind of point of entry.
You have to get your name out there. Know they have to be able to click on a button and know exactly how to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to give people a lot of different ways to do business with you. So I always talk about having 5 different marketing kind of oil wells because some people will find you on the web. Some people still like to receive a postcard or a letter in the mail. Referrals, right? Connecting with your existing customers, doing webinars, networking events. Right now we're not doing a lot of networking events because of COVID. So we've transitioned to webinars, which ironically were never popular in the past with us. We didn't do very well, but today we are, because people are doing more webinars than they were. So it's constantly putting yourself out there in different ways. And then even on the website, if you go to our website at mxotech.com, you'll see that there's materials people can download to educate themselves about how to work with an IT company. Why should you outsource to an IT company like us? So we do a lot of educational marketing, not trying to sell someone on something, but educating them, also putting ourselves out there from a core value standpoint and culture standpoint, because people want to do business with people they like. So when they go to our website, they can get a feeling for who we are right away. They can read some of our reviews on Google. They can get a feel for what our customers are saying. They can download a quick form. I've had people download forms and videos where I see those coming in at 11 o'clock at night, right? Because they're done with their day. Now they're searching for a partner to handle their IT services. So you have to make sure that they can reach you via email, phone call, website. I mean, you may have to make it easy for people.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought this up because we talked a little bit about this yesterday too.
When I talk to entrepreneurs, whether it's just a connection call, I always ask, how are you generating revenue and how are you marketing yourself? What is your marketing strategy? And 99% of them say social media or networking or both. And there are so many other ways to really market yourself. And I love, one of the things I learned up from you was search engine optimization. Your website is optimized for, so people can find you. You also have the Google AdWords that, so if somebody searches on a certain term, it comes up at the top of Google. So those are different tactics or strategies that you've used to grow the business as well. But I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about all these different ways that you can grow the business and all these different strategies. So there needs to be more than one strategy to focus on.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to work at that time. We've had years where referrals were a number one lead generator. And then we've had years where, pay per click or SEO is a number one lead generator. But we're doing both at the same time, right? And so if I didn't do both, I might have missed out on that year where one worked versus the other. The other thing that's really important is back to the education component. Make sure that when you have a lead, whether it's a warm lead or a cold lead, that they learn and already know something about you before you're talking to them. So one of the things we do is we always send out either like a custom website that we created, like a little page that we created for a prospect, that has maybe an article about me, some kind of white papers, the booklet that I wrote about what to look for when hiring an IT company, testimonials, all those things that they get in advance of a meeting. So sometimes I will mail it to them if I know their address, in like a FedEx or a bright blue envelope that matches my colors. And I send it so they can read that in advance of a meeting. So I'm not trying to sell them before when we meet, kind of get that out of the way. I'm not trying to educate them, when we meet. I'm really talking to them about what it would look like to work together. And are we a good fit for one another? Could we create a partnership, right? Make sure your customers they're educated, right? They're educated buyers. It's your job to do that.
Yes, that's one of the things I learned from you too. What do you call it? The shock and awe box?
Yeah. So we'll send them the shock and awe box. It's either a virtual one or a physical one. I actually went to meet with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, one of my clients, and I met with their medical director, and the woman had all of my materials that I mailed to her in advance of the meeting out on the conference table. And she said, you're a mom of 3 kids like me, right? So you're building that personal connection. Don't underestimate. People want to connect with you personally and professionally. I feel like there's a good balance of both. So make that connection before you even meet with them, whether it's a shock and awe box, whether it's your website, whether it's your marketing, social media, if that's what everybody's into, do it through all the ways that you have.
Thank you so much for Joanna for being a part of this. Like I said, you've impacted my life and my business so much since I've met you. And I love our friendship. I treasure our friendship and everything that I learned from you. And thank you for being here to shine your light and share with other women entrepreneurs what it takes to grow a 7-figure, 8-figure, 10-figure business, whatever it means.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I feel the same way. I think, for all you ladies that are watching this, make sure that you surround yourself with amazing women. I would strongly recommend the programs, Megan, that you're offering. But if Megan's program is not for you, join any program that you possibly can. Listen to these kind of interviews, podcasts. If you take one thing out of here, I always try to learn something from everyone. And Megan, I've learned so much from you. I appreciate your friendship.
Yeah.
And all the parties we've thrown together and all the women we've collected together.
We do have a good time together. I love it.
I